No one expected that this rain would last for a whole year. I thought living in a high-rise, I could ride it out smoothly till the end, until the massive flash flood swept through the entire city, turning it into a vast expanse of water. Take advantage of the break in the rain. We are heading to Mount Liang for shelter, but we are now facing a terrifying storm with roaring flash floods rushing towards us. Liang Yu shouted with a pale face, "Pull yourself together." But the twin brothers didn't even lift their heads, putting all their strength into sucking milk. I am haunted by shadows in my heart. The nightmare from 3 years ago feels like it's happening again. The flood is about to swallow me. Lin Shi, we all came out with you. Cheer up, Liang Yu yelled and threw a wooden board at me. My body trembled as I bit my tongue hard, causing my mouth to fill with blood. I have to move or I'll be swept away by the flood. Paddle quickly. The flood will take at least 10 minutes to reach us. Trust me, I lied. The flood will be here in just 5 minutes. We are doomed. In such life-threatening situations, you have to give it your all. I remember escaping from a cold lake, thinking I was doomed, but I survived. I should believe in survival against all odds, not being trapped in a nightmare. Hurry up, everyone. Let's fight again. Believe me, the booming sound from the rear is getting closer and closer, pushing forward from the horizon. The 10-meter high waves are roaring and crashing, shattering buildings one by one. The flood is getting closer and closer. Our boat is slowing down more and more because the flood waves are too strong. Even if we have 10 minutes left, we probably won't be able to escape. The twin brothers turned around and looked at me with horror on their faces, realizing that they were in trouble. But Liang Yu suddenly shouted loudly. A boat, a big boat, was unexpectedly sailing upstream. A large fishing boat, a whopping 30 meters long, breaking through the waves, its engine propellers churning up the floodwaters. I was overjoyed. Is this an illusion? In this situation, there is a fishing boat going upstream against the current. Is it Shira? Is it Shira? An old man at the bow of the boat is holding an iron chain and shouting at us. His figure is blurry. The rainstorm is too heavy, and I shudder all over. Dad! I started crying and ran towards the bow of the boat. More than 10 men on the big fishing boat shouted, "Hurry up and use the net to pull them up. Turn the boat around quickly." Obviously, they were scared by the huge wave behind them. A massive fishing net was thrown over us, covering us completely. We all grabbed onto the net, including Liang Yu, who was also surprised. A group of people held onto the net tightly as the big men dragged us onto the boat. The boat made a sharp turn and raced downstream at full speed, with the sound of the wind and rain echoing in my ears, making me feel like I was passing through the gates of hell. My dad ran over and hugged me, crying his heart out. I cried too, feeling like I wanted to cry so much. But now is not the time for reminiscing. The boatman shouted, "Get ready. We're about to arrive at Liangshan Cableway. Everybody get on the lift. The people up there will pull us up." Liangshan is just around the corner, towering more than 2,000 meters high. The whole mountain base is submerged in floodwater, possibly rising up to tens of meters. The cable car on the mountainside has been transformed into a human-powered cable car. A large crowd stood on the clearing halfway up the mountain, shouting towards us. A lift platform lowered down. It was a wooden platform with chains tied to it, capable of carrying more than 10 people at once. The fishing boat hastily crashed into the mountainside. The fishermen quickly jumped down and onto the lifting platform. My dad shouted not to fight to avoid capsizing. I turned my head and looked towards the north. The terrifying huge wave is almost upon us, probably less than a kilometer away. I can smell the foul moisture in the air. My face is stinging. Hurry, pull us up. The roaring flood is only a few kilometers away. The breath of death filled the mouth. Wow! Everyone on the mountainside is pulling together, and they managed to pull the hoist up with dozens of people. I desperately held onto the elevator, watching the rushing flood, my heart trembling. With a loud bang, the towering Mount Liang trembled as the flood crashed into its surface. The water waves stirred up rush past under the elevator. After surviving the ordeal, we finally reached Liangshan. Over 10 big men were crying like children. But the situation on the mountain is not optimistic either. The heavy rain has made the whole mountain wet, and many people have gotten sick, coughing inside the caves. My dad led us into a temporary dugout cave, which was also quite damp but had a fire pit to keep us warm. I saw my mom. She hugged me and cried uncontrollably, which made me tear up again. Don't cry. It's safe now. There is plenty of food on the mountain, but not much medicine. Try not to get wet in the rain and avoid getting sick. My dad reminded us, there are many survivors on the mountain, around a few hundred people. Many of them are from nearby villages. They brought a lot of food, but unfortunately not much medicine. After that, we settle down, and as long as we don't get sick, it's pretty safe in Liangshan. The situation outside is getting worse. This time, heavy rain has been pouring for a month, and Liangshan has been submerged by hundreds of meters, while the entire Yuqing has disappeared. I am standing at the entrance of a cave, looking into the distance. All I can see is the endless expanse of water. The flood keeps washing away. Bodies are being carried far away. This is just like hell on earth. Afterwards, it stopped raining for 3 days, but it didn't help us much. We couldn't go out to find any supplies because everywhere was flooded. We can only take advantage of the rain stopping to clean up our living quarters, bury the dead, or redistribute food. There is really a lot of food. Bags of rice piled up in the driest cave, with corn and potatoes covering the ground, and even numerous pieces of cured meat hanging. I have to admire those villagers. They are amazing. I guess they must have carried all the supplies up the mountain for the whole village. 3 months later, all the vegetation on the mountain died. Halfway down the mountain turned into the sea, and the rain stopped, surprisingly, for a whole week this time. 6 months later, the rain hasn't stopped, but it has decreased, and the distant sky has cleared up quite quite a bit. I was pleasantly surprised by a bold idea that popped into my head. The rain has eased up, so it looks like the weather might really be changing. I don't expect the rain to stop because that's just the heavens taking a break. I look forward to the rain getting lighter, as that would be a new twist. 8 months later, the sky was only left with drizzle, and occasionally we could see the sunshine during the day. As for Liangshan, once the water rose to halfway up the mountain, the flood didn't rise much more. My dad and the others went to the mountainside to check, and when they came back, they were overjoyed, saying, "It seems like the flood is starting to recede. It's a bit shallower than yesterday." A glimmer of hope still excites us all. After that, the flood noticeably started to recede, and the rain also began to lessen. By the time it reached the 10th month, it was only raining for 2 to 3 hours a day, and the flood had receded by at least 300 meters. We ran to the mountaintop to look at the Jade City. We saw some rooftop that had decayed, but now they were revealed in broad daylight. All of us who escaped from the Jade City embraced and cried together. 2 months later, the rain finally stopped, and the sun shone through the white mist, lighting up the mountaintop of Liangshan and shining down on us. The survivors shouted and cheered, welcoming the sunlight, while many others cried out loudly in relief. A few days later, as most of the buildings in the Jade City emerged from the water, several small black dots appeared in the far sky, military helicopters approaching closer and closer. Everyone was waving and shouting wildly, getting excited like a child under the morning sun. I laughed and cried at the same time, looking at the woman holding her daughter, the physicist leaning on a cane, the bespectacled Amo, and the twins jumping hand in hand. I thought to myself, what a beautiful scene.